Hello, you're welcome to another edition of What the Papers Are Saying. We'll bring you the stories, the top stories for the week as reported by various media outlets. In a bit, I'll give you an idea of what the headlines we saw this week were and also introduce to you my panel. Stay with us, don't go away. Welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Vivian Kai Loco. So this week, the story has, of course, been the COVID-19, how we have gone about with the lockdown, which we are in day 4 of that lockdown. And then also we'll look at the review in cases. The number has shot up to past the 200 mark. We'll look at that as well. But let's see how the various media outlets captured the stories as they developed over the week, and start with the City Newsroom and see the latest story there to do with the numbers. And it says Ghana's COVID-19 case count hits 204. The Ghanaian Times, President First Lady tests negative for COVID-19. We go back to the City Newsroom, and Kolebu doctors threaten to withdraw services over lack of preparedness for COVID-19. We'll move to the BNFT and COVID-19. Oforiatta accounts 9.5 billion cedi cost to economy. Let's go back to City Newsroom and COVID-19. Bishop Titiofe withdraws isolation center donation after protests. The new publisher, 60 hide in cow track to escape lockdown. City Newsroom, coronavirus, Ayalolo operation suspended temporarily over losses. The Daily Graphic, 49 COVID-19 patients treated, discharged. City Newsroom, government to house feed stranded Kayaye, others during lockdown. Let's go to Ghanaian Times, and they have a story on the lockdown. They say police military show of force as they step up operations against lockdown defiance. We'll still stay with the lockdown and go to City Newsroom and see how they captured developments around the lockdown. Then it says violators of COVID-19 lockdown must be treated with dignity, charged to security officials. Still on that website and still on the lockdown, COVID-19 lockdown, catering for 15,000 Kayaye reasonable. This is a gender minister speaking. Let's go to the Daily Graphic. Halting spread of COVID-19. Stay-at-home measures begin. We still stay with the Daily Graphic. Minimizing COVID-19 impact. Government rescues vulnerable Kayaye to get meals, accommodations and stipends. Let's go to the City Newsroom and look at funding around COVID-19. And World Bank supports Ghana's COVID-19 fight with $100 million. And then we stay with City Newsroom. Government struggling to raise $100 million dedicated to coronavirus fight. This is the minority. Also in City Newsroom, Parliament to consider COVID-19 National Trust Fund bill under certificate of urgency. And that the Daily Graphic says Parliament approves $35 million World Bank facility for COVID-19. On the City Newsroom, government wants Petroleum Act amended to allow usage of Heritage Fund for COVID-19 fight. And then the Daily Graphic says $100 million COVID-19 fund ready for disbursement. This is the Finance Minister speaking. We've seen quite a number of institutions donating to the fund for the COVID-19, which is the COVID-19 Trust Fund. Let's see how the various newspapers and websites capture that story. We have the Daily Statesman saying President sets up COVID-19 Trust Fund. The New Crusading Guide, government officials donate salary towards COVID-19 fight. And then the Daily Graphic, Absa Holad gave to COVID-19 fund. And still with the Daily Graphic, ADB votes 1 million cedis rather for COVID-19 fight. So that's how the various media outlets captured the story around the COVID-19 cases proper, as well as the lockdown, which took off on Monday. So with that, let me introduce my guests for tonight. I have with me Samuel Atamensa, he's with City FM and City TV, and I also have Selim Adono, he's head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV. Have you seen some in this Max? Okay. Gentlemen, welcome to what the papers are saying.
Thank you.
So we quickly go to the latest to this. The numbers have gone up again. 9 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed earlier today, increasing the country's total number to 204. All these cases were confirmed in the Greater Accra region. Now, one of the new cases, out of the 9 new cases, 4 had no travel history, nor had they come into contact with any of the previously confirmed COVID-19 patients. So this is the latest to this. Now, the community contact we're seeing, or the new cases around the community, should we be worried? Is it tipping towards, the community contracts, like, what we're seeing?
All right, thanks, Vivian. The community infections, or the lateral or horizontal infections, as people call it, it's actually where the worry should be. But fortunately, so far, numbers haven't been so huge. I think the last time we had 3, and today we are hearing about 8. 4 who have had contacts with people who have had some travel history, and extra 4 who, hadn't had any contacts with people who have traveled. So, in all, I'm sure we are less than 15 as far as the counts are concerned. That gives me some respite, or gives me some confidence in the fact that the measures we have instituted are actually working. Initially, I was a bit anxious, but I think the last few days, my anxiety levels have dropped a bit, because it appears the plan is becoming clearer. And initially, of course, this is something we've not experienced before. Nobody has done it before. So an experience you have will generally be an experience from elsewhere you are importing into. But it appears that we are getting handle over it, and I hope that it works better. The enhanced testing that is going on, I think, is a good idea, and I only hope that it works better. But the community cases, what it actually means is that initially a lot of the people, or almost all the people, were people who have traveled and come into the country. So we describe those cases as imported cases. So if they are imported cases, I'm not really concerned, though I should be. But
we should be with the community.
We should be, especially when we have people who haven't traveled anywhere and are getting it. And in this case, 4 people who haven't even had contact with anybody who's traveled. I think we need to quickly look at them and do the contact tracing around them quickly,
those people,
to see if we can contain it around them. Because once we have community cases occurring, it's not really a good thing. But as I said earlier, I'm happy that the community cases are not as many as we have, and we've shut our borders to ensure that no new cases come in, even though one of the cases came from Benin, and Benin, as I just checked, had 13 or has 13 cases. It doesn't mean they are doing better. It could also mean that their testing capabilities are not up there yet, or compared to ours. So generally, yes, that's it.
So, Ms. you were wearing the mask earlier. Why have you taken it off? Why did you have it on?
No, I wore it to introduce the program. That's where we've got into.
Yeah, you haven't introduced yourself properly.
No, that's where we've got into. But I took it off because I want to demonstrate how we wear it.
Okay, so demonstrate it quickly. Let's start with you.
Time.
So you come back to the demonstration.
I'll come back.
I would have advised you do, because with the heat of
demonstration and then do how to use the sanitizer and everything. Well, it's very important.
Yes.
So this is a practical session.
No, this is a practical session.
Let's do it now. I
thought you were asking me a question.
I will ask you, but I want us to do. I don't want us to end the show and not do it because of time. So please do it quickly for us.
So I have my.
So that's your mask on.
So everything is covered.
Okay.
make sure that, you know, if you have a big nose like mine, you should still be comfortable.
So it covers the nose.
Yeah.
Right all the way to the chin. Okay.
Yes.
So this is the correct way to have it on.
Also, I think.
Okay. And then now you do the sanitizer.
And then
Show
this
us
is the
correct
sanitizer.
way.
Now this is a sanitizer that was made here in this office.
Oh, nice.
So
to match your shirt, green. So you wrap your palm together.
yeah, Charlie.
Let it also benefit me, as they say.
So here we go.
So we have a campaign running at City TV on the way.
Yeah, so we are just campaigning that everybody should wear a mask once you enter into any public area, especially the markets, the malls, once you sit in public transport. You know, once you know that you have the potential or the likelihood to meet any person
People,
outside of your inner core, you know, you just have to wear the mask.
Okay.
So this is why we wear the mask, and then encouraging people to. We've heard people say that we don't know where to, but in the next couple of days, there's going to be a lot of masks out there.
Okay.
So people shouldn't worry.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. You can take it off now if you want to do that. But we're looking at the figures, and then I want us to move to the fact that we're seeing a move to other regions. Currently, about 5 regions. Yesterday, Eastern region joined the growing list of regions with cases there. I mean, are we likely to now see it move further and more regions, or every region covered? And how do we deal with that?
Well, I mean, look, things started from Wuhan. How many miles or kilometers away? And it finally got here.
Yeah.
So the possibility that it can travel to other regions still exists and is real. But I think the structure of the protocols and the efforts put in place so far is to minimize the probabilities. You know, possibilities do exist, but minimizing the probabilities so that the potential to stretch to other areas is minimized till it gets to zero. The moment people get into our system, it opens it up for infection. So if somebody, the number 4 that you just mentioned, that we don't know. I mean, we just don't know how they got it, but they may have come into contact with somebody, and that's the danger. Okay, so I think it only comes to explain or validate the decisions that the experts or those advising government have taken so far. Because in anticipation that this thing could spread outside of Accra, they decided to lock Accra, decided to lock Kumasi, decided to lock Kaswa, you know. Now that is one in the Eastern region?
Yes, just one.
One in the Eastern region. I am sure that ICE will go there. And if it moves beyond a certain number, I am sure they are going to lock down Eastern region as well. So the every effort to stop people from moving in such a random manner is the way to go at this point.
Now, before the lockdown, we saw quite a number of people move to various regions, hoping to run into safety. You know, we've seen some regions being proactive, like Western region, their markets, they've started the social distancing, actually drawing boxes like we saw in the likes of India and all that, trying to protect themselves from, you know, this whole thing. What are some of the measures you think these regions that haven't gotten the cases, you know, yet do to protect themselves?
Well, I think it's a time that calls for leadership. So we can't sit in Accra and assume that the solutions or the measures that Accra people will employ will work elsewhere. That's why I was pleased when I heard that the Jirapa Municipal Assembly and officials there were welcoming, in a way, people who were traveling from other parts of the country into that side of town, were welcoming them, explaining to them what to look out for, and trying to take their temperatures, etc. That's what will work in their system. Social distancing, great. So if the markets in the Western region have begun exercising
the areas they
or
operate.
doing some form of social distancing. I mean, that's what it should be. The language all across the world today is social distancing, etc. So if they have started doing something like that, that is great. But the other measures also have to be emphasized. They should use their local solutions to ensure that they are safe. It's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
There should be leadership at the local level, at even the domestic level. Every side of it should have leadership. And once there is leadership, I'm sure that they'll be able to lay out the plans which will be properly fit for their situations.
Okay, so we're seeing the likes of NDC and calling for mass testing as something they believe government should do quickly to help also deal with the spread of this virus. Way to go.
Well, I mean, I don't know about mass testing, but if the call is just to say that, look, let's not limit the testing to the demarcated areas. And I'm sure that the policymakers or the government also would be fully aware that the more the better. But we are dealing with resources, And so far, and I may be wrong, I haven't heard any country that has done mass as in to cover the entire country.
Yeah.
And I stand to be corrected. And so whatever it is, it has to be incremental. And it has to be incremental in an informed manner, where we can prioritize where we are most likely to be affected. And I think so far that's how they have mapped it out, and that is not in contravention of anything. Mass, yes, but we will start from somewhere. And I think so far they have marked those that are worst affected or most are likely to be affected, in order to spread it, in order to stop it from spreading to other areas. So I don't know whether we start with the mass or we can do it incrementally so that we stop it from getting to other areas.
Right.
I think it's a matter of capacity. I don't think anybody anywhere in the world has started with mass testing yet. There are talks about using the RDTs, the rapid diagnostic test, that you can buy yourself and then check. But there are some discussions around that. But as we speak now, the PCR, which is the PCR based, which is the one used now by Noguchi and KCCR in Kumasi, is limited in some sense, in that when you do the test, it takes a number of hours, sometimes the next day, to have a result, and it's a bit expensive. And since this whole coronavirus, should I say, scare and into reality started, Noguchi together with KCCR have tested less than 5,000 people. And I recall reading on the UK, for example, they were also having issues about the slowness of the testing. They were at 10,000 tests a day. They said they were going to increase to 15,000 and then to 25,000 tests a day. Yeah. So the testing itself, there are capacity issues generally. So I don't think we are doing so badly. Talking about mass testing, you always have to prioritize. So what in the UK they've been doing is their focus really has been on the guys in the ICU. And then after the ICU guys, they look at those with severe respiratory illnesses. So when you present a severe respiratory illness, then quickly you have to be tested. After that, they are looking at isolated cluster areas, for example, homes. So if somebody is tested positive in an aged home, for example, then they know that they have to quickly try and test all these people. So it's been slow across the board, perhaps because of how the PCR works. But generally, I think mass testing will only be possible in our circumstances when we have the RDTs, which are cheaper, which, discussion is ongoing around even across the world. So mass testing, yes, sounds good. But I don't.
But I think in some countries they apply both.
They apply both.
They apply both, yes, where they use the RDTs as like a first tier, to isolate those with the higher potential of getting. I mean, but what they say again is that if the RDT says you are negative, you cannot be 100% sure.
95%.
So I can understand why they are reluctant. But I think that it calls for that if we want to quicken the process. You know, the moment the need to be tested outstrips the infection rate, then we are in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's why the RDT, you know, I think we should give it a second attention.
Okay.
So that we can combine that. That way people can walk into medical facilities and
pharmacy
test,
shops
yeah,
and
test, you know, for themselves.
and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's actually cheaper. So I hear it's around $1. You can get it to, just like the pregnancy kits or the malaria RDTs or malaria kits. You use your serum, the pregnancy one, you use your urine.
Yeah.
In this case, you use your serum or your blood, you test it, and you are fine.
you know
Even though
what-
the accuracy rate may not be 100%,
Yeah.
but generally, I think it gives some idea. So if you know if it tests positive, you know you have to do it again, or maybe you can be isolated and tested properly using
but
the PCR.
I think that it's important that we take a second look at. Because see, when you look at Noguchi, they would be at the upper end, you know, the top tier medical laboratories. There are the second tier medical labs, and then some of the hospitals to also provide. And I think that they have qualified medics there to help. And because we don't have the capacity in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
It's only when we bring it to the second tier where we use the RDTs and expand it, then we can have our real numbers. Because like you talked about some of the countries with very, very low figures, and you're wondering, are they really checking?
Yeah.
Do they have the capacity to check the numbers? You know, and it's not like we sit here and doubt other countries, you know, because really we have a peculiar situation as a country. And why I say that is, look, our interface with the Western world is very high in frequency. British Airways, 7 times a week they are coming to Ghana. KLM, 7 times a week they are coming to Ghana. All the major airlines were open to Ghana like that. So it stands to reason that our infection just went up, you know, like the same way South Africa, the same way, you know. But the programs put in place have helped to manage this thing, you know, so far. And it could have been worse. It could have been worse.
So when I look at the figures, I was saying the last time that it looks huge, maybe now 204. But when you break it down really, so you have about 78 or so under compulsory quarantine, the guys at the airport area or the hotels in the airport area. So that you take out of the general population. So the number comes down. Now you go to the 10 in the northern region, you take that also out, and you realize that the number keeps dropping. And we now get to deal with the real number as we have it now, as those confirmed cases. So the number may look big, but it has an explanation to it, really.
Okay. So you're watching what the papers are saying. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the lockdown. Day 4 of the lockdown. It started on Monday. How effective has it been? Stay with us. So yeah, welcome back to what the papers are saying. My name is Vivian Kailuk. I'm here with Samuel Tamensa and Selam Adonu. So guys, on Monday the lockdown started. Today is day 4 of the lockdown. Let's do a general assessment of it quickly. Samez, have Ghanaians complied with the lockdown?
I think largely Accra has been quite successful, I must say. I don't know about other places, but just before we came on, I called a friend who is in the military in Kumasi to find out, and he just said, look, 50-50, the young people are still a bit playful about the whole thing. It's like the realities haven't dawned on them, you know. There's no high level of appreciation of, look, this thing is a death and life issue, you know. So, but Accra, I must say that it's been quite successful.
Okay, Salam.
Yes, I think generally, yes, it has been generally been successful. I think it's also due to the fact that a lot of people know what's at stake. So you better comply. I think generally, yes, it has been successful.
Okay, so we'll look quickly at issues to do with brutalities, because Shraj today released a statement to that effect, urging the security forces to be careful with the way they handle defiance and all that. I'm trying to pull out that statement in a bit. But Salam, your thoughts about it? You are the human rights, you are the lawyer here. What do you think about these brutalities we're hearing? The military, for example, has come out to say that most of the videos that are being, thrown into the system on social media, really not true. Some happened 2019, some are not even from Ghana and all that. But what do you think about it? Some of the things we're hearing?
Well, anything that infringes on the rights of people, I mean, it's not right. I mean, we are a society of rule of law. So you realize that when the president wanted to place restrictions on certain rights, he had to go through the proper process by going to Parliament to make a law that will clothe him with the appropriate powers to be able to place the restrictions on those rights. Those rights are very basic to human life: right to movement, right to assembly, right to for expression, etc. Even though in this case the right to expression hasn't really been touched. The rights which have essentially been touched or restricted are assembly, movements, etc. And these are for good reason. So anything that anybody will do outside of the law to deal somebody an unnecessary blow in that sense, in the name of maintaining law and order, I think is wrong. When you look at the law itself, the Imposition of Restrictions Act itself, it spells out penalties for people who will flout the restrictions. I mean, those penalties are painted, or they are printed in black and white. So it would be wrong for anybody to take the law into the person's own hands to, punish somebody outside this. And indeed, a lot of the courts have closed, but the Chief Justice in his wisdom left about 28 courts for reasons like this, because they know that as human beings, people will flout laws, people will go against what the laws have said, and so those people, the appropriate place for them to be dealt with is the courts. So he left 28 courts to be sitting around this time. So for a military person to hit somebody unnecessarily or take somebody through a certain process which is not proper, I won't support it. But also, we must ensure that we understand what time it is. You don't go about provoking a soldier or a policeman to see if he will react or not. That is unnecessary. You don't do that. So if you do that and you get a slap, I mean, I wouldn't say it's your own cup of tea, but it's not appropriate. And a lot of people, I had someone give an example yesterday that somebody said he was going to buy earpiece at Seco. So, I mean, so unnecessary. Stay at home. And you stay at home. You're going to buy earpiece at Seco. I mean, so I think it's a mixed bag of many things. But rights must be respected. Once the law hasn't taken those rights away, we must ensure that as much as possible, those rights are respected. And the good thing is that if you feel your rights have been trampled upon, the courts are there, the processes are there for you to seek redress. That hasn't been shut.
Okay, so
I think brutalizing people is a no-no, and the military high command itself is against that. So that clearly tells us that that's not a prescription of the military. Having said that, I know these lawyers, they always come up these human rights things. But fundamentally, the military is not a law enforcement agency. And I'm saying fundamentally. And so the moment they are called into the law enforcement arena, then they are going to have to do it their own way. And that's why you see the military do things the way they do things. So we better not call them. And that's a conversation among the military people.
Yeah.
Look, we have a way of doing it, and really, we're not to beat people, but you know, we all grew up fearing the army.
We all know that if there's a problem now and you call the
bring
military,
the military, people will scatter.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they should scare people. They shouldn't be beating them.
Yeah.
Because your uniform alone is scary enough. So the beating people will not solve the problem. You know, so military people, we beg you, just calm down, just take it cool. And like Selon was saying, there are people who just think that they have to speak anyhow. They think they are big. They deserve to be out there when they want. And you know, these law
to be
enforcement
treated differently from everybody else.
They are also human beings. You know, the police, in my estimation, are better trained to undertake this law enforcement.
Yeah.
But the military people, they don't talk plenty. Even when you meet them, they don't talk plenty. You know, they just obey and go. You know, that kind of thing. And in their own regime, it's obey.
Before complain.
And that's it. So the moment they bring the policymaker or the government brings military to add to what do you call it, the police, it means that they expect a certain level of enforcement other than the ordinary way of doing it. Not to go and beat anybody.
Yeah.
But you see, we are at a place where if we don't enforce it vigorously, this thing can escalate to a place that we cannot handle.
Okay.
When we listen to the press conference, thankfully, we haven't had an opportunity to use the ventilators the way it's being used in other countries. So that gives an indication that we have had moderate situations, you know, and we thank God for that, which also suggests that our recovery rate will be increasing very soon. Yeah. Remember last week I was telling you that by the time my own projection was that we will be getting to the 300 zone. Remember?
Yes, you did.
By the time we come out of, you know, because you see, and it's still, I still maintain that we'll be nearing that before the thing
so
comes
if you
down.
will hit 300 and drop down.
Of course.
Around about that.
The drop is in the rate of increase, which we have seen already. And I think that within the next couple of days, maybe up to Monday, or by the time we are done with this, we should be around the 300 area, beyond which the numbers will be randomized. Okay. You know, one here, one there, one here, one there.
Okay, we pray that comes to.
A quick one on the military thing.
This thing is scary.
Yeah, we are civilians. We are not used to the military kind of thing. But I also want to plead with the civilians, people who have access to mobile phones and videos, etc. Sometimes there's what we call the go slow at the checkpoints. Let's understand that we are not in normal times, and let's just comply. You being there and videoing and saying you are in a hurry and they are slowing you down, yet you have something to go and deliver and all that. I don't think it's
we're not in normal times.
It's so helpful. We all have to. I'm not sure the military guys themselves want to be on the street in the sun doing that. And the same way, I also don't want to be stopped at every point to be checked and that kind of thing. I mean, we are all having to be inconvenienced a bit. But the fact that you have a phone and you have a social media page, you throw everything out there complaining and things, it's good. I mean, it's a right to expression. But let's be a bit considerate in how we put out some of these things. They may be discouraging to some people who are genuinely doing their job, and that will not inure to the benefit of the generality of the public.
Okay, let's do a review quickly on preparation. So we have doctors from Kolebu, for example, this evening and threatening to withdraw services over lack of preparedness for COVID-19. Now, if you allow me, let me quickly read a story on City Newsroom. It says, doctors at the Department of Accident and Emergency at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have expressed dissatisfaction with the level of preparedness of the department in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. In a memo signed by the doctors to their head of department and cited by City News, they decried the usage of a side ward as an isolation center without the necessary personal protective equipment. Quote, "We write to express our general dissatisfaction with the preparedness or lack thereof of the department to combat the current COVID-19 pandemic. We also wish to express our displeasure with the events surrounding the hospital's first confirmed cases," unquote. You know, this issue about the personal protective equipment, it appears it won't go away anytime soon. Now we're seeing Kolebu doctors threatening to, back on the strike over their protection.
I think the issue of the PPE is a real problem. And if the doctors at the front line have a problem with PPE, then it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
And we can't skip this problem.
No.
It's something that has to be resolved and resolved quickly. Because I heard a story in one of the hospitals where somebody claimed that the moment the health workers noticed that the person was COVID
positive,
patient, they all ran away and left the person there. And I can understand how this would happen, because if they don't feel protected themselves, I mean, haven't we seen doctors just pop off in Italy and in other countries? Because the fact that you're a doctor doesn't mean you have any immunity.
No.
And so it's important that we listen to them. It shouldn't get to the point where they have to withdraw their services.
In protest.
And that again, the moment they withdraw their services, the nurses are going to continue. And the nurses are also going to withdraw their services. And so whatever has to be done, I don't think they're asking for much. PPEs, at least according to their own letter, PPEs, and then also the isolation ward, which is at the accident and emergency center, should be managed more, in a more professional way. I think it's a legitimate request that it has to be swiftly handled. Otherwise, these things, it can blow in our faces.
Yeah. Salom.
Yeah, I think they should actually be listened to, and I'm just a bit concerned, because normally you would expect that in matters like this, people would deal with it using their local or internal channels. So by the time it gets to the media this way, then it means that they have tried a few times and it's not working. And that makes me concerned. I think these are our heroes. These are the guys on the front lines. They are the people, fighting for us, as it were. We should, as much as possible, try and make sure that they are happy, they are fine, they have their backs covered. They are not asking for anything extraordinary. They are asking for working tools. They're asking for working tools. So if you give them so much work and you don't provide them the tools with which they can do the work, then, what are we doing? We should ensure that we listen to them. Let's provide them with the gadgets and equipment they need to do this. We don't want these concerns and these matters to become the news. Like Simon says, if they withdraw their services, nurses will follow. Then we'll become the news of the world. We don't want this to become the news. I was so happy 2 days ago. I heard Upon Nkrumah. I was yesterday. Upon Nkrumah on the BBC. I saw him on the BBC answering questions. And you see, the picture of Ghana, and the way it was even introduced, the picture of Ghana, so beautifully painted by the presenter. Because Ghana, again, is coming out as a beacon of hope in Africa. The fact that we have a lot of people, going to be recovered or going to be getting well soon, and the fact that we are trying to manage this thing very well being put out there, I think it's a great story. We don't want a situation where the international media will start picking some of these things that doctors and medics in Ghana have started threatening to lay down their tools. Why? Because they are not properly protected. No, it shouldn't be. And the authorities who are in charge of this should listen to this and act swiftly to ensure that the working gadgets and apparel and equipment they need to do this job is provided. They're not asking for money. They said give them the tools they need to work and let them feel protected. They have families. If, in Russia, the medical officer who took Vladimir Putin around the hospital when he visited, he's been infected. For that reason, Vladimir Putin has been put in some quarantine because they don't know what's going to happen. In Italy, we've heard a number of doctors die. Even in Ghana, the Lekma hospital, one doctor has been infected. These guys have families. You know, and we should actually at this time be pampering them and not leave them to be complaining over some of these basic things. I think we have to deal with this.
Now,
as quickly as
if you
possible.
also go around the checkpoints, we're seeing the same thing with the police, with the soldiers. You know, no form of protective.
I asked one of them yesterday, a policewoman, you want to wear the mask?
Yeah.
She just smiled and I passed. We should equip them. I mean, why do we send people to the war front and don't equip them? Let's give them these things. They need them. Let's equip them properly. I mean, I don't understand it. It's like you send people to war and you don't give them guns and bullets. They'll die and they'll come. They'll come back.
What even scares me, you see, most of them, those without the gloves, they are checking the cheats, they are checking IDs and all that. They touch all this and touch yours and touch every other one. And this is, if anything happens, this is it spreading across, you know.
But they're not supposed to be touching anything.
No,
So.
that's what they're doing.
No, they are not supposed to. I mean, why should they touch? Because the thing is that even if they use gloves, how many gloves are they going to use? How many? Because what it means is that after every touch, they should change their gloves.
Exactly.
So they are not supposed to touch. But the point still to be made is that we need to safeguard the front line and make sure that their lives are preserved. Because you see, can you imagine a situation where a policeman is infected who is at a post where he keeps stopping people and speaking to them?
Yeah.
You know what he's doing? He's nicely transferring, quietly transferring. So it's very important that if we let the police or the security services out there, they themselves should be protected. Otherwise, it will be an exercise in futility.
Still in preparation, did we lose track in dealing with the homeless, these Kayaye and all that during our preparation process? Because it looks like we are now remembering that, oh, wait a minute, these people are on the streets, we need to sort them out now, when we're in the 4th day already.
You see, in matters like this, I don't know who makes up the national response team, but in public health interventions like this, we deal with it in a multi-sectorial fashion, and that's what has been happening. So when it's time for an address, you see the health minister, sometimes you see the education minister, you see other people, the military, you see other people come to talk because everybody has a part to play in this. Recently, I saw the Gender, Social Protection and Children Affairs Minister also at one of these press conferences. So my thinking generally, ordinarily, is that she should be part of that national response team because she has a role to play in that. So what happens in those teams, everybody is pushing from their sides because there's a general discussion. Everybody is chipping in, everybody is pushing from their sides. So if it's time for you to push in based on where you are coming from and you fail to do so, then you are letting the whole team down. I fail to understand or even appreciate why a lockdown of this nature will be announced and we don't appear to have thought about the homeless and the vulnerable. It just beats my mind. And to say that they are now going to be catered for, I think, beats my mind as well. You have data. We claim we have data, about 15,000 of them, are in the database. What was the point of the database? If you have the database, which it means that you know where they live, you have contact with them, etc., or you know how to find them. So even before the lockdown was announced, I'm sure a lot of the people in the response team will know that between this time and that time, there could be a possible lockdown. Quickly, you start working underground and making contacts with those people so that those of them who want to stay, you know what to do. Those who want to leave, if you have to let them leave, you know what to do. But to behave as if nothing was happening or everybody was fine, I think is wrong. These people, they live by the day. I was just thinking of the guys at the Silver Star area, the guys who wipe your windscreen and those things. What happens to all these people? They sleep just around. How are they going to live? Because now, if they come, you want to bring down your glass, hold down your glass for them to talk to you. How are they going to live? These are guys who have to be protected. And it is said that how a country deals with its underprivileged says a lot about that country's system. They are important. We have to ensure that we have a program for them. Now, since 2 days ago or yesterday, we hear there's a plan for them. I don't know whether they've started benefiting from those plans. I'm not sure. They have to eat. They have to sleep. What is the plan for them? When is the plan going to see implementation? It is very key, and we didn't have to get here. And a lot of the MCs and DCs, I think, have also failed the system. These people live in municipalities or districts.
Yeah.
So at the local level, the DCs and the MCs must have a sense of where they are. Every DC or every district or municipality has social welfare offices and officers as part of the district or municipal structure. That should be their job. What have they been doing? You know, I think what this COVID-19 thing is doing for us is exposing a lot of the things we should have done many, many years ago. And now it's in our faces, and we are struggling to catch up. That shouldn't have been the case in the first place.
Okay.
Oh, the issue of dealing with those, the have-nots and underprivileged, I think, for me, when I listened to the minister, clearly she didn't have a plan. I mean, she didn't have a plan. And when politicians start referring to a list as database, I get worried. I mean, when you have a list, it's not database. And when you have data, it's not database. So you can't make a public announcement that you have a database when indeed what you have is just a list. Because you see, it's even more serious if indeed you have a database of 15,000 people and yet you don't even know where to find them.
Yes.
So what are the attributes of the database? But if there's an afterthought which provides an opportunity for the ministry to intervene, then it has to be done quickly. So I see it as an afterthought or something that was late in coming. And you see, where we are is a very strange place, okay? And I see companies donating. And I'm also thinking that not every company has to take money and go and give to COVID appeal fund. Some companies will have to go beyond that. Even if you have donated money, there's another responsibility of feeding people like that. So I think that some companies should also take it upon themselves to go, okay, you said you have some 15,000 people. Can we help in feeding them? You know, because if we are going to wait for the government to feed them,
Do everything.
we are not going to see the end of it. Because, look, 15,000 to feed them within this short period without prior preparation.
2 meals a day.
It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. And you see, I watched the program on CCTV this evening about town. About town. And at some point, the presenter met these young boys at Circle. And he was asking them why they are still around. The guy told the presenter bluntly that Namini baby are
You don't have anywhere to go. Yeah. It's what it is.
and they are not making it up.
Yeah.
You see, so we are just saying that at this point, first intervention, lockdown. Secondly, let's achieve the social distancing. Then we realize that there are some people who don't even have the homes to go and stay. So another intervention. And that thing is not going to just come overnight.
Okay.
We need to prepare, we need to, and we need help from corporate Ghana.
To help to get this thing
because
done.
if 15,000 we are waiting, corporate Ghana should come and help.
Okay.
I was pleased when I saw the CNR yesterday when you spoke to Senor Husi and the private sector is a fund, they have a name they call it, and it's about 2,000 packs of food they send to the people. That should be it. Because we can all
there are some of them.
Yes.
There are some.
We can all not go and donate to the big fund.
And the churches are doing it.
And the churches too are doing it, which is great.
Okay. So
Reverend Bodin Yamiche's church is doing it. Archbishop Duncan Williams is doing
as well. Okay.
it.
Kudos to those who do it, and I think everybody should get involved. You can do, something little. You don't need to do something big if you can afford it. But guys, thank you so much. Samuel Mensa with City TV and City FM, and Salom Adoni also with City TV and City FM. When we come back, we'll bring you Vivian's view. Stay with us. So, guys, we have to wrap up. Your final thoughts about this whole thing, and then we'll move on.
Yes, we don't have to panic. It's a big deal, but we don't have to panic. When you panic, you lose your senses. We want to ensure that we go by the guidelines given. We give support to people who are less privileged or underprivileged as much as possible. It's not just enough for you to keep your family safe when the people in the neighborhood where your children will go and play, are not safe. So I think we need to extend help and extend education and extend assistance to people around our immediate communities, and as much as possible observe the guidelines and the protocols, washing of hands, applying hand sanitizers, etc. Very, very important. And let's respect the security people on the streets, on the road. We are all trying to contain this. I think they are doing their best as well, even though we don't support the excesses.
Okay, so the final one.
So one thing we've learned so quickly is that the viruses, they don't move. It's human beings that move them. So because the viruses don't move and humans move them, please stay at home. Stay at home. Get to know your own home that you haven't known in a long time.
Ouch.
Get to familiarize yourself with the corners of the home and watch City TV so that you don't get bored. Because some people are writing a lot of strange things on social media. That's and right. Those are symptoms. And those are symptoms. But I think we should take it seriously, the whole thing of social distancing. Look, some countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, they have done it. They have used the mask, and we are seeing results. And I think we should also try as much as possible. I mean, for those people who think that is their right to go out, I just can't get it.
Their own world.
Stay home. Just stay home.
To buy earpiece at Circle.
Okay. All right,
somebody
guys.
says he's going to see because he's in Krofo.
Soldiers, the police are bad.
That's witchcraft.
Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Samuel Atamensah is with City FM and City TV, and Selamado, the head of features and articles here at City FM and City TV. When we come back, we have Vivian's View. Don't go away. A few months ago, the majority of Ghanaians were unconcerned about a new coronavirus called COVID-19. Today, this virus is mentioned by most of us every minute. The World Health Organization tells us very soon the virus will kill at least 50,000 people and infect 1 million globally. Now, Ghana has already hit 204 cases and 5 deaths. This virus, an enemy every human being must fight, is no respecter of race, color, age, wealth, or social standing. For months, it has been unleashing its wrath on persons from all walks of life globally, and Ghana has not been excluded. This reinforces our collaborative fight against this virus, which means every Ghanaian has a role to play, whatever your social standing, because we are at war and our enemy is COVID-19. You, me, everybody has a role to play because you have the potential to worsen this pandemic. Now, this virus is more contagious and deadly than the common flu. You can easily transmit it to another person without even knowing it, and they will also transmit it to more people. But there's a solution. Stay home. Just as you can easily transmit the virus to another person, you can easily avoid transmitting it if you're willing to stay home. Now, stay home is not a strange instruction. It is the main strategy. But go to the streets of Accra, and people who have no business out there are there, endangering the lives of their families, frontline workers, health workers, other essential workers, and all of us. Stay home is not a punishment. It is a small price to pay. Please, look around you. In every community, there's a health worker, be it a nurse, a doctor, a lab technician. These men and women have to risk their lives every day to save lives. Frontline workers like doctors, nurses, the police, military, media, and many others are all all at risk because of this virus, but they don't have the luxury, like you, to stay home. Stay home is not a prison sentence. Stay home is the only solution to the spread. Take the case of the Lekma Hospital doctor. Last week, he contracted the virus. His only crime is he's a medical practitioner and a frontline person. Now, after getting infected, all those he came into contact with are at risk. Stay home to support our frontline workers. Many people have been pulled over by the law enforcement agencies over the period, and the reasons given for stepping out are pathetic. You have no idea what you're playing with, do you? Italy, some months back, took for granted the importance of a lockdown. That mistake cost them over 13,000 lives and still counting. Every day, frontline persons have to go to work. Through these fearful days, we pray for the best because you don't know when this enemy will strike you, even though you're well protected. Stay home is not a punishment. It is a small price to pay. So for the privileged people who have been asked to stay home to help stop the spread, your contribution to humanity at this point is to obey this directive and save lives. You've been given an amazing opportunity to rest, rejuvenate, try something new, learn a new skill, bond with your family, and many others. We are not in normal times. It is a battlefield out there. Stay home to avoid death and killing others. So please, stay home to stop the spread. Stay home to help us with the war. This has been Vivian's View. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Thank you for watching what the papers are saying. Goodbye.